Well, happy Friday, everybody. Sebastian, thank you for joining me. Really grateful for VaynerNFT, the team, and the involvement that all of you had in November last year. And certainly as we're looking forward to our event, June 20th to the 23rd. For folks that don't know you and some of the context of what you do as the SVP of partnerships there at Vayner, can you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today. Again, my name's Sebastian Oddo. I'm the Senior Vice President of Client Partnerships at VaynerNFT. I often refer to myself as the wreath on the front of the door, where our president, Avery, usually sends me information on new brands and clients and athletes and celebrities that want to work with VaynerNFT. And I help kind of guide them in what we could do for them and supporting them into their entry into the Web3 space.
I imagine you get to talk to a lot of people, and there must be so many unique, diverse projects that either come your team's way or that your team are the ideators and the strategists around like, well, hey, big brand, have you thought of this creative idea? We could be the first to do this. Yeah. And so would you mind sharing just some of the diverse projects that you and your team are talking about with partners? You know, that's our theme for this year, is diversity of utility, of projects, of communities, of approaches. So I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, diversity and inclusion is a key pillar in when we're thinking about concepting and we're thinking about strategy for our clients. Number one, our clients are thinking about this in general as part of their overall business. But for us, we need to think about that as it relates to what artists we're going to be using for projects, how we're going to create generational wealth within NFT drops, how we're going to be inclusive in terms of where we're going to drop the NFTs and how consumers, when we think about tokenomics, how we're going to, charge for NFTs for clients. So I think, overall, that's just ingrained in who we are at VaynerNFT. It comes from the top down with Gary, instilling this sort of inclusive environment. And we're continuing to keep learning, listening to the community, and we're going to get better over time. So,
well, I think people are really happy with the productivity and all that you're already doing. And so better over time is always a great trajectory. You talked about, real value in the IP of these projects. And I feel like that's something that Gary set a tone with VFriends. He did a lot of things. He did several things first, but one thing that he drove in the branding of what he was going to do with VFriends and what he's reinforced is this significant IP creation that has long-term, multi-generational impact. Is that a lot of the conversation that you'll have at VaynerNFT? Is this decade, century view and not just what we're doing this season? Is that a consistent thing amongst the team?
Yeah, absolutely. And for our clients too, we're constantly reminding that this is a long-term play. Comes from the top down, as I noted before with Gary, I think. But yes, we're talking about long-term vision. The blockchain isn't going anywhere. Specific PFP projects might come and go, but the blockchain's not going anywhere. And we know that by the patents that are dropping by some of the major brands in the space. They're investing in blockchain. And so I would say that, IP, we're definitely, it's being built into a lot of this long-term strategic programming that we're talking to clients about. And we're excited to see, collaborate with them and see where we could take it over the years.
One of the things that you and I were talking about before we hit the live button was just the focus on and importance of mental health in the Web3 space. How is that something that is personal to you that you think about? And then how is that something that maybe is shared amongst the team in terms of conversation and just being thoughtful around this aspect, which I think our industry has been talking about it quite a bit. And I think it's really healthy.
Yeah. Web3 wellness in general is important to me. I even have like a tattoo that I built, that I designed on my arm, that it's on my Twitter, that, is my compass for making sure to drink water and to take time to breathe and to, give back and help others. So that's been something that I did before Web3. And now I've seen a lot of people, and especially this week with everything going on with the markets, like people are really struggling. They've put a lot of time and energy and investment into this space. So it's really important to think about Web3. wellness. And I would say that, swimming upstream too, we have a lot of youth that are starting to get involved in the space, and we need to think and educate them on what it means to be happy and healthy within the space, because what we don't want is for them to get into bad habits. And as leaders in this space, it's our responsibility.
Yeah, I think for younger people, maybe not just age, but just entry into the space, especially if they haven't been an investor in cryptocurrency, they haven't gone through the drastic, wild, unexpected downs. The ups are easy to weather most of the time. So yes, of course, wellness is important for everybody, but it's important for this industry because the extreme experiences that people will have. How has it brought more focus when things start to fall apart? Oftentimes, great teams, like I'd imagine Vayner's team gets more laser focused, better boundaries, better kind of bring things in, so we make sure that we're not wasting time outward on these different things. And so how does that change the conversation compared to last November when we're all together and Bitcoin hits an all-time high and Ethereum, it's totally different with the value of cryptocurrency at the current state, as well as the project. So how is focus important for your team as you're working with your partners?
Yeah, our team talks constantly. Not only do we have our weekly meetings where we bring up topics and talk about how we could drive better conversation for our clients and also support the communities that they're building, but we also are so that's weekly. But then we're also constantly talking on a regular basis by the minute on whether it's on our Discord or it's on our WhatsApp or so we are connected. We know what's happening in the space, and we're talking about things that truly matter, and we're making sure that we're blocking out all of the noise and really helping define for our clients, but also for our own well-being, like what it means to be truly pioneers in the space, because it's our responsibility to make sure that the projects that are coming out for these brands, as we all know, the community will sniff out very quickly if brands come into this space in an unauthentic way. And it's our responsibility as advisors and consultants to do that, to help guide them in a strong way into Web3.
Would you consider VaynerNFT as a overarching organization more consulting and advisory and strategy than execution? Do you see those two things as they go hand in hand? Do you approach projects from a hybrid perspective?
Yeah,
consulting and your team does it? Because I think a lot of people haven't reached out to Vayner just because they may not have a connection, or maybe they think it's going to be costly or whatever it is. And maybe this would give some insight to the community on how you and your team approach these relationships.
Yeah, I would definitely consider us a Web3 consultancy, where we're not only talking about NFTs, we're talking about what it means to be, what does it mean to educate yourselves and your community and your employee base on Web3, cryptocurrencies, metaverse. But I also think that, from my standpoint, like our team, we're constantly learning and thinking about what's next. And I think we need to be able to pivot very quickly. Our team, in terms of consultancy, we're not only onboarding and educating our clients, but we're educating the community. And that's why we do our Twitter spaces. That's why we're constantly talking to artists to see. And in the spirit of Web3, we don't do development in-house, but in the spirit of Web3, we're working with partners depending on what the project is. So if it's a sports related project, we'll go this way. If it's a artist related project, we'll go in another marketplace direction. But we want to open our boundaries and really work with the community.
Talking about community, how important is gathering people together? So we're meeting in the context of NFT.NYC, which might be the largest and more established event, but our event is decentralized by nature, right? We had 128 additional events last year on top of ours we put on our website. We anticipate hundreds of events happening around ours this year in June. VCon happens next week, and VCon may not be directly tied to VaynerNFT, but certainly there must be a lot of collaboration, if not more. And so what are your thoughts on IRL community-driven events, whether it's a small gathering at a brewery or it's a massive event with 10, 15,000 people coming to Times Square or whatever the size and breadth it is for VCon. Talk a bit about events and how you think that plays into the relationships and the productivity of the teams that are working together in your context.
Yeah, absolutely. For majority of my career, I was in the experiential business and figuring out how to really bring the digital and physical together. So experiential to me has a special place in my heart. I do believe, having working for a remote team, VaynerNFT is mostly remote. When we all get together, it's amazing. It's it really does. The energy is different than it is online. And I think that goes the same for brand work as well. So when we worked with Bear Paint and Doodles at South by Southwest, you could just feel the energy in the space was totally different than if we were to do something online. So I think it's very important, of course, being safe in today's climate. But as things start to open back up, I think it's very much needed.
And if people want to be involved with Vayner, either as a potential prospective client, or I think a lot of people may be interested in working for the company, whether on staff, whether remote workers, or potentially a partner. If you don't do all the development yourself, ears are buzzing, freelancers are thinking, agencies are thinking like, wait, does that mean there's an in for me, et cetera? So if people are interested in approaching VaynerNFT in these different regards, I'd love to work with or for the company. I'd love for the company to be my consultant for all things Web3. What's the right way for people to go about reaching out to your organization? And maybe are there different people to connect with depending on what it is they might be looking to do with the team?
Absolutely. I think our Twitter account, VaynerNFT, is a great place to reach out. You could DM us there. You could also go to our website that has a contact form there that you could fill out, or you could just reach out to myself or Avery, where our DMs are open always. We're very on top of reaching back out to people. So any of those are a good way to contact us.
Well, since you brought up Avery, I think there's a lot of things assumed by Avery. She is amazing, has had a great career. She's an incredible speaker. What are some great qualities and leadership qualities about Avery that maybe people don't know if they're not on the team? I think people might be interested in hearing your.
Absolutely. Avery, she's just an incredible leader as it relates to really pushing the boundaries. There are times where I'm like, how are you doing this? She could be in 1 minute doing a podcast, the next minute she's on stage, the next minute she's in a deck helping me. And I think that's what I really respect about her, is that she'll get down and really support us at all the way down to the deck level, but then also say to us, what can we do better? How can we push the boundaries? And that's what I really respect about her, is challenging us to think bigger. And I constantly am hearing her not only on podcasts and other places talk about this, but also I just think like the respect that she has for the space is important, the protecting the space. So if there's an idea that I pitch to her that might not be authentic enough, she'll tell me. And I respect that a lot, our honesty and relationship and trust for one another. But as a guardian of the Web3 space, she is exceptional, really one of the best.
Well, what an honorable string of things to say about her. I'm glad I asked. As we wrap our conversation, let me ask this question. Is there anything that you believe strongly and have real conviction for that you think the majority of people in the NFT space don't see it the way you see it or would disagree with you? Because, all of us have our unique filters and ways of looking at things. I'd love to know if there's anything that stands out to you in terms of, your method and your rhythm and how you operate.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure, and this includes me, we need to make sure that we're thinking about people, consumers outside of the Web3 native crypto community that we could help onboard. If we don't onboard, then it's not going to work. And that's not what the Web3 community talks about often, is like onboarding and educating. But we really need to put pen to paper now, and we need to think about projects that are accessible, that could uplift people, that could make generational wealth differences, that are diverse, that are inclusive to communities. And I think we need to keep that in mind, and we also need to think about wellness. So I think all those encompassing items are really important. And sometimes we forget. We start talking more about floor prices. We start talking about, and trust me, I've been there. I have a very nice collection of NFTs that I've invested in over time. But again, my focus for the future is wellness, sustainability, diversity and inclusion, and thinking about generational wealth.
Well, I'm tempted to wrap our conversation there, but I'm going to ask you one final question based on something on your wall. It says, "Who are you?" I have found that NFTs impact people's identity, and people's identity impact NFT projects and approaches more so than other developments in technology. Why do you think there's such a strong correlation with identity, personal identity, community identity, tied to this industry? And do you think it's healthy on the topic of wellness? And how should people be thinking about their identity as they are creating or consuming and collecting NFTs and whatnot?
Absolutely. So that's a piece from Chantel Martin. Chantel Martin is an incredible artist who I respect greatly, and she just is a game changer. So that I would just give a shout out to her, Chantel. If you see this, I appreciate you. I think in terms of ownership, people talk a lot about the metaverse. And you think about the metaverse, people think you put a headset on, you walk around this virtual land. I don't think about the metaverse that way. I think about the metaverse as a way for us to have our physical lives and our digital lives, and how they're going to start to blend together. So when we talk about like our ownership rights, and we talk about how we present ourselves in the world, I think that sort of blend is important. And for the first time ever, we're starting to see those come together very quickly. And we're starting to see that my profile picture has a purpose and has a story behind it. And I also have a purpose and meaning and story behind when I'm off the computer. So I think I do believe it's important for us to make sure that we're balancing those, and that that they're both being representative of who we truly are.
Well, this was a fun conversation for me. I hope that those that are watching us enjoyed it as well. And I want to thank you and acknowledge you. Thanks for your attention. Hope that all of you join us June 20th through the 23rd in Times Square, New York. We've rented all the billboards. You'll see NFTs all strung throughout the city as we rented all these buildings and brought the community together, hopefully from the most decentralized approach that we possibly can, to make this a community gathering about the community and for the community. And Sebastian, it is vital that we have partnership with you and the VaynerNFT team, as well as your peers, because that's the point of us gathering together, is everybody has a voice, and we bring everybody together to think about what we're doing, why we're doing it, where we're going, how we can work together better and get things done. So my friend, thank you for joining me.